box in here, and this is the debris actually.
Oh.
And then we cropped it to save on.
Oh,
I'm having a
for
personal
some
summer
line.
over
Okay,
here.
sweet, thank you.
Oh, Mike.
Hey,
Hello, Mike.
there you made it.
You're fine, I've delayed the meeting.
Are you? Good, I guess I'll be.
Good.
You doing, Spencer?
Come on, Mike. How you doing, Mike? For, Miss Torres?
No, my pastor locked it, I'm waiting on that, he did, he said.
Always
You got your password, huh?
No, I have a password, it's just the security protocol.
The
that
90-day
we set every once in a
reset.
while. Yeah, I don't even notice. Sure. At least on my laptop, my workstation.
They don't match.
Same password.
Yeah. Same mic, not the same.
Tried it 3 times now, lost it.
Fair enough.
Thank you very much.
You want this stuff? No.
Nico, if you need help setting that up, don't ask me.
You got locked out of your account.
Yeah, I was in my backyard recording it.
Yeah. I was going back on 49. And I was with the guy, and it's like, he said, it's like, we watched it develop. And I said, there's a dark pot over there. And then he turned on 49, he's like, oh my God. It was watching it come through the ground, and then whoosh, straight up into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was, what do they call it, just,
A land spout.
Yeah.
Did they classify it as a
A land spout.
class 1?
An EF1.
Yeah, 1.
Yeah. But we usually when they would move, like, miles, they just kind of step in and stay here.
10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was slow.
Anticipation was killing me. Like, go,
I know,
run.
right.
It's too hot for the run.
Yeah.
Yeah, from a distance, you just went like this, and it got bigger at the bottom, yeah, so and it just stayed right there for.
See, and I couldn't see the bottom from my angle, all the trees at the river there in my backyard.
Oh, yeah.
So you just. Probably scared me.
Yeah, everybody had different views. I was over at East, my son was over in Brookville, and everybody could see it.
Yeah.
So they, you know. I was thinking, oh, our safety, and you have to put it in place here.
Did you want to grab one?
Good thing we got you and Sarah, just, you know.
You know, right.
That's what it said. Siren had to quit, and overheated or something, just stayed on. How long will it stay on?
Well, there are 5-minute intervals.
Oh, it stays on for 5 minutes, it shuts off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when it shut off, I'm like, oh, well, the tornado's not gone.
Yeah.
This is annoying noise is, oh no. It's right in my backyard.
When it first developed, I called Troy because there was no sirens yet.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Is it like the?
Who activated those? The fire department?
no, dispatch in Weld County or our
That's the
police
one
our
they did.
entities and our police officers.
So we don't activate that?
Our police officers have the ability in their entities.
I think you use mine for today.
But yes, I got.
Well, yeah,
full red
everything's gonna be on
warnings
the
from
screen,
Weld
there's
County
not
for
really
the
a-
town.
No.
That.
Like
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Oh,
we're figuring that
okay,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
click on that. No,
Yeah.
Platte THW.
Well, I'm wondering the same thing.
And I don't know what the password is, let me go look it up. Do you remember?
Didn't know when I was watching,
Wi-Fi
I
password?
wasn't you blamed anybody.
I don't
Dave's
know.
got like running like,
TOPS.
you're gonna push the button, I thought you were gonna push the
Well, there were
button.
no precursors.
Okay.
There was no hail, there was no rain, the sky wasn't clean.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was only slightly breezy. It was crazy.
Yeah, it come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
What was the deal, Frank? He had to reset it.
That got a siren.
My workstation, gave me a warning that my laptop doesn't work with anything, so we're good.
Nice. Okay.
Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. 3 topics of discussion on the community complex master plan, followed by the Bisball Cemetery expansion, and then a conclusion with a little bit about economic development. We'll start off with community complex master plan. You've seen the initial version, which is up on the screen. You also have handouts 7x17 on your desk. And this version, again, at the far right, I'm pulling a little bit on the screen.
Like, turn on lights.
Probably.
Yes, please, guys. The button on the bottom.
Mine's not working.
That's fine. I gotta push it a little bit first.
It came on and went off, Mike, so hit it again.
Go.
I just figured you all muted me. Sorry, everybody.
So the 2 copies we have, the first one was the initial one. All the facility suggestions are the same on both of them. The first one shows on the 5-acre Dynasty property that the town purchased a 40-foot easement with a 10-foot setback on the north side of the property. And Mr. Silball is present tonight. His property is north of the Dynasty property. On the second map, you'll see the revision per your request to show the same property, same facilities, but with no 15-foot or 40-foot easement or 10-foot setback. What that did allow, compare the 2 maps, between the softball, baseball field and the gymnasium and youth soccer, football field to the south, there's additional parking. Approximately 20 stalls, roughly, give or take, I didn't count. Both maps are otherwise identical, other than the additional parking and the easement removed. So that's one part of the conversation. The second is the discussion on what the overall complex should consist of as far as amenities. As you well know, we currently have the 2 existing ball fields, community complex, horseshoe volleyball pits, and a batting cage. Some discussions is adding a tennis basketball court, a U size being a 200 foot, which is much smaller than the existing 300 foot fields. When we're fully operational and erected properly with all teams full, we don't have the practice space or game space. The coach pitch T-ball teams and even the girls softball 10 and under could easily fit on the new field with the existing fields. We currently use the schools for soccer and football. This will allow us a youth size, not a full 100-yard field, but it's based upon official youth dimensions. Width and length than the gymnasium. This is based upon the dimensions of the old gym in Gilcrest, which is much larger than the new gym at the elementary school, because the old gym in Gilcrest also has full locker rooms, concession stand, office space, as well as the gymnasium. So the inside of that, I'm not even worried about yet, just looking at the format on the property.
So it's substantially larger than the old.
Much larger than elementary, bigger than the middle school one too.
Okay.
So I compared it to the old gym south of the high school to Gilcrest. And I walked it, and there's a lot of opportunity in that side of the building. besides a basic gym, there'd be another practice gym, there'd be some meeting rooms, maybe a racquetball court, I mean, there's different options with the bigger size. That's for later conversation, obviously. And then with the new ball field on the North Mass property, added a batting cage and a main shed because of the other batting cage, main shed for the two existing fields are on the opposite side of the complex, so I feel we need at least the maintenance shed in this area to maintain that field and also the amenities around it, so.
What are those rectangles? Are those dugouts and stands?
Yeah. Yeah. Brad Kerr's currently on vacation, and we attend tonight, but he drew the schematic up based upon some ideas that I threw his way to fit that property. Just from conversation over the last few years, what we could add to that. We don't have our rec district, obviously. And also penciled in a very small little t-ball field on the opposite corner, the southwest corner, south of the volleyball horseshoe pits, but that's just an idea. I don't know how to do that because parking's gonna be a premium. We have activities going on in all facilities at the same time.
So if we go with this plan, we've got three fields dedicated to baseball, softball. We got one field dedicated to every other sport.
Football and soccer's youth size field.
You can tell it's close to his heart. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Well, you know, I've been involved in town for a long time, and a lot of our budget goes towards baseball, softball. Got these great fields, and that's it for how many years? And even somebody who never played baseball or softball, and there are probably a lot of kids out there that don't. It seems like a big portion of the town's recreation budget is catering to that. And now we're gonna have 3 fields, and we're gonna have,
Well, this would be 4, because the middle school.
so that's the one thing that I've looked at. Like I said, this isn't the first time I brought it up. I brought it up years ago. You know, we spend a lot of money on baseball and softball. Out of our recreation budget. And there are more kids that don't play baseball and softball than do. So that's the one problem I have with it. But I think we need to. A lot more kids are playing soccer, and if you've got two teams gonna play soccer, you got 2 teams that wanna play baseball or softball, we've got that covered. But we do tend to emphasize on baseball and softball. And I understand it's a summer activity, a lot of kids are involved in it, but then you get a lot of kids who don't do that. And then when the kids just want to play around, you don't want them out there playing around with a baseball and softball field.
Right, the fields are locked up.
But if we've got a bigger area here they can play around on, then you've got more things covered.
Sure.
Whatever happens to the field that, for the last, 2 years, it's been brought up that we were gonna, I guess, revitalize that field or make a field out of what's down by Bella Vista. What happened to that?
We have some plans for it. We just had the budget for it. It's about $100,000 to work with CDOT to culvert that ditch and have the parking needed for about $15 to $18.
So that's a good practice field once that's done.
Yeah, I brought that up probably 5-6 years ago. It's on the list of capital projects. So that's always been one option. The middle school does have a field. I don't know how long it'll be there. I mean, Janet and I think they're gonna revitalize that field. I think we can use it for a month or two, then they're gonna do something to it. I think they're keeping it, I just don't know for sure.
Well, and it's always difficult relying on someone else's facility, and that I do understand.
Yeah. So that's why I added the gymnasium, because volleyball is a big sport, basketball is a big sport. Not that we don't have a good relationship with the school, but having our own facility would be nice. And then, again, we use them for, we have our parks for soccer, Riverview's a nice park for the youth side soccer. But we use middle school also, so. It's the board's purview, if you wanna make this all soccer, football, fields, open space, that's your decision.
Thinking outdoor, they brought up basketball and outdoor basketball area. Might be used. I know they use the middle school.
It's right here, it's like a tennis/basketball court.
I
Yeah,
didn't see that.
it's penciled in over there at the.
Oh, I see, okay.
Recommending that where it goes,
Oh, okay.
but maybe that could go over where the little T-ball field I penciled in is, maybe that could go over there instead.
Okay.
See, something, just maybe an all-purpose field. I mean, I've been a lot of years since I went to a T-ball game, but you don't need backstops. You don't need a lot of the stuff that you have.
If you ask the T-ball coaches, they'll tell you
Well,
opposite.
I'll argue that point with
I
you.
know,
Hey, when T-ball I saw, they threw the bases out, and the kids hit it, and they jogged around the bases.
I know.
I mean, you don't need necessarily a dedicated, field for that, in my opinion. This T-ball, I can only hit it about 50 yards,
Where would we move the horseshoes if we
Oh, sorry. Well, that was just the T-ball field went over there. That doesn't have to be, that could be still remain the same. But again, my concern over on this west side is we need to keep some active parking over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, just throwing out ideas, this is very conceptual, okay? Just kind of see some different options, some variety. Jan's promoting a lot on the horseshoe and the volleyball coming up, the grass volleyballs scheduled, we're gonna take registration or something. Cornhole, so a lot more adult program, not just youth. Football's not a football club, so we don't manage that at all. Flag, obviously, we do, but that's through me.
We still wouldn't have games probably, if we stayed with the Longmont, league, we wouldn't host games
Correct.
in Platteville.
It would
Or
stay
cheaper back then.
For flag football.
unless we pulled out and did our own flag again with other towns, and that's always a gamble.
Right. Seem to be happy, you guys are happy with the product that we're getting in Longmont.
Seems like they're getting good response on the flag football.
Yeah, lots of happy parents with that.
It's a lot more money, but they're happy with it, and they're getting some good return on what they're paying for. So,
I don't disagree with what Mike said.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to scrapping that baseball field idea right there, right north of the gymnasium, and make it a multi-use field, or make it a second multi-use field. Even throw some basketball courts up there, some playground equipment. Again, I think something like that with a lot going on, and you got people coming and going, moms and dads dropping kids off to practice, give them like a walking track. I mean, it doesn't have to be super big. I mean, there's just stuff I threw out the last time that, I think would make a huge impact. Because a lot of times you drive by, you see parents over there, either sitting in their car or they're hiding from baseballs coming over the fence. It's like, give them somewhere to go too, It's not just about the kids. I have kids, so I'm just saying, like.
I can tell you though, we have a walking track in Meade, and it's rarely used. If people walk, they don't want to walk in a circle. They want to walk a path to see something. They don't want to do a circular. If they do, they typically will go where there's a track because it's a set amount, and they.
Have you been down to Thornton? Thornton has them everywhere, and they're packed all the time.
It varies.
I think it's all community.
It has a trail too, and nobody uses it. It just depends on where you're at.
Right.
But part of it, because the senior brought up this, or yesterday when I was talking to him, and we haven't designed it, but very simple, about an 8-10 foot wide trail system, walking somewhere, looping around all these facilities would be easy to do.
Yeah, I mean,
So
even
that-
if they just went around the whole thing, or just around, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, just something.
Yeah, we put little, like, start and finish, and little distance markers, so they can kind of, I mean, that's easy to do, we just haven't drawn it in yet.
A couple of things you had mentioned, I think previously, Troy, was fitness stops.
Right.
Those are, I don't know how, you gotta be clever with those, but like, you know.
We can add those along the trail.
Push up or whatever.
You just put a sign that says, do 20 push-ups.
Right,
do
here you
40
go,
sit-ups.
do it, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's what Fort Walton Rec has, they have a trail around kind of their facility with some different little
Sure.
fitness stations, I think, I've never used it, but I see it.
Even
I
like
think
a
the sand
bullet
volleyball
point.
court is cool too. personally.
Okay.
Well,
We have it on the other side.
Yeah.
But we need to just put sand in it.
We put sand in it. There should be
The
sand
thing
in it.
is with the sand volleyball court that you have to remember is that you can't, unless you cover it every single night, it's a big litter box for every animal that wants to use it. And so that's the thing you have to remember. And to make it a sand volleyball court, you have to bring in the special, really fine sand. No one wants to play sand volleyball
Sure, it's
on.
gotta be beach sand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
that's why it's not a
it's
sand
an
volleyball court, right?
exfoliates their
You'll be able to
feet.
lay out and dive, you know, no cares.
Gotcha.
Land on clothes.
Yeah.
How about just a suggestion, this football field down here in the bottom, turn most of that to a parking lot, reduce the parking up north and make this into a double width field like in Longmont. You can divide the open space into 2 fields for football or soccer. So you have 2 fields, or you just have 1 huge open space.
Yeah.
And that way there's more parking for the gym when it's being used for basketball, volleyball, there's the weight room in this gym. And we could put a,
I don't know if we necessarily even need to dedicate it to a parking lot at this point. I mean, we could leave a portion for down the road, you know what I mean? Because we don't know what,
until the gym's built.
yeah, we don't know what's gonna develop.
Sure.
We may want some of this land for something down the road and we ain't gonna be able to get any land.
The only thing I would say too, in defense of keeping an extra field is, right now, we're okay for field space because we don't have all the teams that we did 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we had 1 team in every girls softball division, and we had 2 teams in every boys baseball. There was no practice time, and right now, we don't have use of the middle school field. So,
If we develop Coronado for another field.
that would help.
It has a backstop, and that was a plan years ago, it's just, when Steve, the Harris engineer at the time, gave us that concept, we're gonna seed out to culvert that ditch, added an entrance and an exit with additional parking. You know, then it was around 50,000, now it's closer to 80 to 100,000 to get that done. Last up we can do it, so we can talk about that during the sorry.
Should be like school, make you answer it on speakerphone, probably.
As a concept of throwing a splash pad somewhere in here, come up. No, talk about.
Lincoln Park is a really ideal spot for a splash pad, if we're gonna consider that, since it's the dead middle of center of town.
Putting
I
all
would
the new
think that's just my
equipment in,
opinion.
I was just thinking that since all the construction's being done here.
We have to also think about the cost of upkeep too.
I don't know that there would be, the upkeep costs would be much different even between here or Lincoln Park,
No.
honestly.
Absolutely
I
not.
mean, if we're putting in a splash pad, it's probably gonna be the same size in either location, or approximately the same size. And it's gonna take the same amount of maintenance and
I can't.
whether we have it north or whether we have, now the thing is, I don't know if a splash, I guess you're not talking a wading pool, so we're not talking lifeguards or something, and parents are dropping kids off going, so it would just be stuff squirting them and draining away, basically, so.
I can't see the kids in Bella Vista coming clear down here to the Reynolds. Can we community complex for a splash pad. And they can, you know, walk to the one in Lincoln Park.
So this field over on the west, Troy, that was just gonna be an additional T-ball field, practice field.
T-ball coach pitch, right?
That was just a small, we have a lot of T-ball and coach pitch, and this is, per what I looked up, is their regulation size field. It's about 150 feet, 125 feet. And when I was, last time my son played out of Parker at a state tournament, they had a little turf field with little lights and everything, and just cute as can be, but just the concept. That's probably the biggest enrollment right now is T-ball and coach pitch. We don't even promote the 1400 group anymore. We try to send them to Kistler Valley. So that's why the mound on that Westville is taken that way to buy a portable. There's a lot more use for the younger kids and the girls softball.
It's almost replace that little field up into the corner and then still put another multi-use field potentially next to it.
Where at now?
So you move your coach pitch field up into the place where you have the
Bigger
fields,
field.
the big baseball field.
At the north end of Dinus.
The north side of Dinus there. You have a sliver where you have the batting cages right now, potentially put that.
So that would easily fit up here.
You know what I mean?
And that's where I initially had it.
Sure.
But I need parking. I mean, we need parking.
I know. Well, you could still leave your second design. Just get rid of that big field, put the smaller one, and eventually have a little field.
Still have the open space field for soccer, practice, whatever.
And the only reason I'm promoting that is because what I've seen, the kids are more comfortable when they have their own little diamond.
Sure.
It's
I
huge,
agree.
150-foot field.
I saw the little T-ballers practicing on the elementary turf yesterday. Yeah, and that's better than nothing, but
Yeah, they love that.
it's cool to be. It's also cool to be on a baseball field when you're playing baseball.
I was gonna say, then when they go to the game and it's on the field, they're a little like distracted
Right.
by everything that's around.
Exactly. Sure.
So-
Absolutely. I know what you're saying. I see both sides of it. Mr. Cowper made a point before you got here, Janet, that the town invests more money on baseball than anything else, basically, which is true. You know, we have way more teams of that than anything else we do. But we get more participation in that. So.
But down the road, we may have other people, we may have soccer, more participation.
Sure.
I mean, you can't.
I will tell you,
I think we just have a certain budget.
for the life of I can't figure out why soccer is not bigger here. I mean, it should be huge, and you just can't get kids to sign up for it, and I makes no sense. I'm like, why wouldn't?
It's the lazy generation. They want to run around so much. There's a lot of running in soccer.
Exactly.
Every town will different. It just takes time. Alright, so right now I have either much bigger or two multi-purpose fields, the tiny little T-ball field that I can easily fit. On the west side, we'll just leave it alone for right now. The horseshoe pit and the volleyball pit back to back with parking.
Could you where
That horseshoe pit, it's open to the public. Okay. Do we close it at a certain time, or do we just leave it open?
It's open. I think
We're
it's
gonna
open.
plant a couple trees that are actually large trees that will grow for shade, so those are planted right now. And I told Janet that the old schools that we got years ago are starting to rot, and we're looking at some either concrete or metal picnic tables that have the benches around them with the umbrella stands, so in the evening if somebody wants to go play, all you do is slip the umbrella stands in, we got permanent seating. So it's more comfortable to go throw horseshoes at night, in the league or your family or whatever. But we also keep those locked up after hours because people don't make it all the way to the dog park. And you have dog feces throughout the sand around the volleyball and the horseshoes. Just back to life.
You talked about a cornhole, or did we? Kind of an area.
We don't actually need, I mean, you can set up cornhole anywhere. Right now, where we set it up is on the inside of the softball field. And that's actually, in the softball field is where we do the grass volleyball league as well.
Jen, I also talked about, I think we have, what, 8 pits down there for horseshoes? Maybe cutting that down to 6 and add a couple of cornhole, maybe, I don't know, just different ideas.
Put up a little bar area.
Yep. Bring out
Something to get the
beverage.
community actually utilizing it. I mean, if we got these fields that are dedicated to baseball and softball, and you don't want people going out there and tearing them up,
Mhm.
then you don't have any place for people to do something else.
Mhm.
Or, because you really don't want people out there playing on your baseball and softball fields. You take time to groom them, you know.
We actually have been leaving them unlocked at night. The biggest thing that we're trying to stop is the people who take their dogs on there, because it is way better than the dog park, especially if you've got a big dog. It's a huge place. They can run, and unfortunately,
Yeah, it's fenced.
yeah, it's fenced, so you don't really have to pay a lot of attention to them, but when you're not paying attention and they do their business, then it's a problem when the kid is running to catch the ball and steps right in that.
And those security lights that we installed, the 2 by the dog park are censored when they just come on. The 2 by the horseshoe volleyball pits are timer release. So somebody can go down there, so they're not on all the time annoying the dirt and get white things. So if somebody wants to go down, usually set the timer and play for an hour before it goes off. So that was kind of a concept we wanted to do, so it could be utilized in the evening, but it's not on all night.
There seems to be many people know that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Not yet, we're just starting
And that's
that.
where I think that with the tables, once we get tables down there, because right now, yeah, you can sit on the spools. And I had actually even talked to Troy and David about getting new spools and putting like a resin on the top of them, just to make them, so that you're not getting splinters in your butt when you sit on it. But to make it, and then put the umbrella in the spool. I mean, that's a cheap, easy table. If you had an umbrella and you had some shade, and it is more appealing. And then you could market it that, yeah, come on down, come and play,
But it's still being developed, I mean, we're getting there, piece by piece, none of that was budgeted.
For not having a district, a rec district, this is awesome. I think it's fantastic, and kudos to everyone for this. Normally, people have rec districts that are governed by their own taxes.
And actually, everything outside the gymnasium is within reason of our existing budget, because we have additional well water for the grass. Some are one-time capital projects like the basketball, tennis court, the fields, the open space. There's money up front, but maintenance is not gonna be drastically more. Gymnasium will need some revenue to offset that cost. We all know that.
You said you're gonna have rooms to rent out, like meeting rooms?
Yeah, but depending on how we design that, yeah. And looking at a combination of a gym and then what the rec center has, they have rooms, facilities, just depends on the
What kind
size.
of grants come available for something like that? I know you can't use outdoor Colorado, but
GoGo for anything outside would
yeah,
help.
but I mean for like a gymnasium.
DOLA.
And the Well County's new one, their grant process.
That might apply to.
Because this is
The
a community
CDBG,
need.
yep,
Absolutely.
That qualified too.
I think it was one of the #1 answers when Dawn did the survey in town.
The Department of Agriculture has grants too that you can apply for like fitness center equipment and that. Because it's considered, your community has to be a low income community. You have to be able to show that there's a financial need for them to give you assistance putting it in, because it's a service that you provide. So realistically, it would be a great fit for us to apply for that. So I mean, and I actually, one of the people I worked with in Meade now works for DOLA, and she sent me a list, probably a page and a half, of all different kinds of grants that we can apply for. We could apply for private grants through like the Daniels Fund, for a gym and that as well. I mean, there's lots of opportunities.
So let's say in the future we want to build a rec center, right? Like not just a gym. Would we have room to put that on this complex, or would we have to find an additional property? It's kind of looking like it'd be tough to shoehorn it into this complex.
Well, that's why I was talking about leaving some space, right, you know?
Yeah, I
Because
kind of
someday
thought
we
so.
may need in the future, probably live to see it, but you never know.
You know, if we get some growth in the next 5-10 years, it might not be that out of the.
It'd be
realm of
fairly
possibility.
small, like probably the old Carbon Valley one there in Frederick.
Sure, like the one we got now, right?
That's pretty small footprint.
Sure.
The other thing too to consider is that you could take where the community center is now and then add your gym and your stuff onto that, where you'd be taking out the parking, but instead of having the gym over here, that's where your parking would be. And if you're leaving all of this stuff on the west end the way it is, what I had told Troy, I mean, my daughter played club softball for 6 years. We never went to a park that you parked, a ball field that you parked at and walked right to the fields. There was always walking to get there. And you're going to do physical activity, it's not gonna kill you to walk. I mean, you have set parking for your seniors and for your handicapped population to have easier access, but it's not unheard of that you would have to walk a little bit to get there.
No, it's not that bad.
Mm-mm.
So if you were gonna leave space for that, where would you do it at?
Where the gymnasium's at. Because you can't have both, I don't think, it'd be one or the other. Either rec center or gym.
Well, Carbon Valley has a gym in it, right?
Yeah, your gym would be part of your rec center, yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, if we left this area beside the gym open for expansion, you could expand right onto the gym.
The youth soccer.
It would have to be to the east side of the gym, is that what you're talking about, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Because where that tree line is and that kind of thing, that's part of the drainage that is gonna be redone here in the next 120 days. So part of getting to that new detention pond that we built on the northeast corner.
So you're saying between the gym and what's proposed here is a youth soccer field, there's drainage?
No,
No,
where the
there's-
sun is
No, where
at.
the trees are, but between the existing community center, right
That's
here.
what I'm talking about, going to the east.
Okay,
Seems that-
over here, I'm just saying that new drainage is gonna be through here, so we can have some surface mount, something that was there, but we couldn't put a building over it, was my
You
only
could put
point.
like just tennis, basketball court or something over that.
What's that?
Naturally, it seems like you could expand to the west there and connect the two facilities almost, I guess.
Well, you could pull a South Valley Middle School and put it right over the storm drain or the sewer as it is down there right now, but, that's not recommended.
What kind of
You're right,
things would be in the
we're gonna try and
gym?
tie the two together, sorry.
What kind of things would be in the gymnasium proposed now? Would it just be an open court indoors? Would there be locker rooms, weight rooms?
I based this size on the gym, the old gym in Gilchrist that has dual locker rooms, public restrooms, and concession stand out front. An office for whoever manages it, has a couple of classrooms in it, and then gymnasium. So it's more than just a gym like a
Yeah.
middle school or especially the elementary school, just, there's no seating in there. It's much bigger.
Okay.
As far as the footprint, I just wanted to show the footprint on here.
Okay.
The inside, just conceptual, but. So the actual gym is only 50 by 85 or roughly. Tiny.
Yeah.
So
This one?
we're thinking.
No, the actual court for a gym,
Oh,
the actual
okay.
court, sorry, is small footprint. You can put 2 in this building.
Absolutely.
So we're thinking this baseball field on the north side to just leave it as an open space along with the youth soccer and football field. Is that what we're all
Yes.
kind of thinking?
Potentially bringing this little one over
The
here.
idea of having two fields up here,
So
So Coach Pitch
baseball or
baseball.
So
soccer,
like 2 of these.
and having your coach pitch down here, and then leaving this area for potential use down the road. That's gonna kinda-
So Mike, you're saying up here where the field is currently, that'd be a dual purpose, large field that could be, two fields.
Multi-purpose
Right.
fields.
and then put a little T-ball, coach pitch field down here by where the gym is supposed to be, or is that what you're saying?
Well,
Over
you
there.
could, or like I said, we got this area over here for coach pitch, right?
Oh, or
Penciled in.
on the, yes, over on
Where's that?
the west
Leave
side.
that there.
But
Yeah.
it's the parking thing.
So. On the east side of the gymnasium, you could put a big hill for sledding and the bubbles, right? And it's still open space, so if you wanna develop it later on, you just take the hill down. We need a hill in this town, it's too
And
big.
then someone would complain about it.
You just dig a big detention pond and they slide down that and climb back
They
up.
do, yes.
We get drainage.
There you go. This is true.
We could develop this here, we could, never mind.
We're gonna have a little extra dirt.
Yeah,
when
we
it's all
are.
said and done.
It'd be easier to dig a hole than find the dirt to make a mountain.
That's true. This is true.
How much space, Troy, is over on the east side of the dog park, on the west ball field, that's outside the fence line?
Right here.
We could fit 2 big bounce houses there easily.
But it's not big enough that it can fit the little T-ball field, T-ball coach pitch field in?
I don't know, access to it would be tough. I mean, yeah, I believe in walking, I've been walking all summer, nothing super close, but little types are a little different to me. You wanna be somewhat close because you have grandparents showing up. And some have walkers, some have wheelchairs. So I would have that closer to the parking lot. My suggestion anyway, that's why I put this little T-ball field down here, where it's right next to the parking, and balls are not gonna be flying on this field unless they're Babe Ruth's grandson or something.
Well, I like leaving that there and then leaving it, making this all green space.
Over here on the west side or east side.
That's right.
Okay.
That's what I think is.
Well, what I've written down so far is, you know, develop some kind of a walking trail system around the whole complex. Remove the youth-size baseball, softball field on Dinah's property, but add multi-purpose fields for soccer, football, whatever. I was gonna move the basketball, tennis court over somewhere around this property over here, instead of right in the parking lot. Brad Kurtz just threw that in, because he didn't know where to put it. Leave the T-ball field concept where it is. Modify the horseshoe pitch, add some cornhole pitch, that's easy, that's, you can do that whenever. And then just reserve a space for the gym or fitness center, but otherwise they'll just be parking for the time being.
Are you reserving the space south of the gym for a possible rec center
Or to the east.
towards Reynolds?
Yeah, that parking right there at the bottom with the gym north of it, that would just all be a parking area.
Well, what I'm saying is if we decide to go with a rec center,
Oh, that's
eliminating
really-
that parking lot, and you can just move it or expand it to the south to Reynolds. And you have all that parking there where the community center's at, the existing parking over by the ball fields, and then the parking to the north, and then right off of Division, all that parking there too. I think would be efficient.
Why are we scrapping the gym? I'm not, why
That's
are
kind of
we?
what I was saying, like.
Well,
No, we're talking about rec center, right?
Well, it
Rec
was
center.
either, but then it was the idea of go with the gym, and then if we wanted to expand, leave room for expansion.
Down
Right,
the road.
And that's what I was saying,
That's what I-
that south parking lot.
Yeah.
We'll pursue the gym,
Yeah.
because that's feasible potentially.
How about we pursue what we can qualify for GOCO, which is
Right.
anything outdoor? The T-ball field, the open space, the soccer field, the trail, and then just reserve an area for the gym / rec center, whatever you wanna do in the future.
You put
That
that
would
with
not be
cornfield
covered by
around
GOCO.
too.
What's that?
Could we put a cornfield around one of these?
cornfield.
If
Those
you
are
build it, they
great.
will come.
Well, you know, we talked about community garden areas too.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But, I don't know, didn't we have one at one point?
No, we never got one started, not since
I
I've
thought we
been
did over years, man, that is before anybody was here. We did do something though, over by the rec center.
There's,
Over here in the kind of batting cage area.
Okay,
We had
over by
one
Dirty
going at one
Nancy.
time.
You know, there's that good open space over there by
It
Rogers Farm.
didn't last very long, but we did set one up at one point.
Actually, that reminds me, that open space in Rogers Farm, can we move the Little Tykes field to that space? Is that even big enough?
there's no public parking, it's
That's
all
true.
on-street parking, it's residential.
That's true, and we wanna keep it all together.
And it's kind of a subdivision park, it's not really a full public park. I mean, it is, but it isn't, you know what I'm saying? Anybody can use it, but you're gonna be parking in front of somebody's house,
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
so. But the T-ball coach pitch field, that's such a small footprint, we could throw some concepts in there, work with Janet and Brad. David's got maintained it also, was part of the conversation.
I don't know if that's what Jesse was for.
The other thing too with doing a small field like that, you don't do a backstop, a traditional backstop, it's a net backstop. So at the end of the season, it comes down, so then that field could be used for other things. You could use it for cornhole or, I mean, like I said, right now, we're putting cornhole out in the grass.
It has an infield, right?
It has an infield, the field itself is done, and that's an area that I would suggest doing in possibly AstroTurf, just because then the whole thing is AstroTurf. There's nothing really to, I mean, you maintain the AstroTurf, but it's not the same as maintaining the dirt. So then you could use it for a lot of other stuff.
It's so hot for little kids. It's so hot.
They actually like it much better over at the elementary school on it than being in the grass, because it doesn't attract the bugs the same as the grass does.
And we'll be planting trees all around all these facilities.
And we'll have water to them.
And the one, when we were playing up in Lover in the Centennial Park, we saw they have the different size fields for different ages. And this tiny little T-ball field with the 20-foot tall little lights. It's kind of like a field of dreams, but it's just miniature. And you couldn't believe how many grandparents were there snapping. I mean, it's just cute as can be. But it's such a small footprint.
Right.
And it was all turf. There's no maintenance to it at all.
A lot of the fields in Texas are like that.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, when kids are starting off in sports, that's their first impression. Everybody typically wants to play it initially. And to me, that field probably used more than any field that we have. Between the girls softball and the boys. Usually they're combined, T-ball, coach pitch. So, but that's easy, that's an easy fix on that. So. I can come back with a couple of ideas. I'll talk to Brad, I think tomorrow or Thursday, maybe we're gonna go with Brad first. He does this real quick, it's all on his computer, so.
What do you guys think of having several different options and then at Harvest Daze, having people vote on the option they like the best?
I think that's a good idea.
Community input.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, sort of like coach boards or something like
I
that.
think it is important to get community input, you know, because
I've got calls that,
rather than us.
So I can tell you one of the things that we did in Mead that people appreciated, because it wasn't a set conceptual plan, is so you would put this out here as you have it, and then you give people sticky notes, and they put and they have like 1 through 5 on there. These are my top 5 things that I want to see here.
Yeah.
And then they put, you know, I really want a gym, or I really want the football field, or I like the T-ball, or, you know, and so then they're marking what is really important to them. So then you could put the walking path on there, and you could even do that with multiple options of it, but then people are actually telling you what amenity is there that they really want.
Yes.
And it's simple, and it's not, they didn't have to take a whole lot of time, they just put their sticker there.
You have to put in parentheses, a pool's not an option.
Right.
But I guess then they don't have to, if they're doing the numbers like you're saying, then
Right.
it's not an option.
Right, it's just, what are your top 5 of what's up here?
It's the same concept we did 5 years ago, we did the streetscape plan.
Exactly.
We showed a bunch of pictures of different amenities from Main Street, and then they used sticky notes, they look, and I still have them in that file.
Right.
What if we, I love that idea of community input, so once we get that, why can't we get some designer who can make show us a couple different designs? It's not just one-dimensional sort of thing.
More of a 3D, kind of like
Right.
playground concept. FHU.
FHU. They are amazing at that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they have people I met that just do streetscape parks, and they make it look real pretty.
Just like your park, your
Right.
playground.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a video. It doesn't even have to go that far. You know,
No,
somewhere in the
Right.
middle would be great.
Yes.
That's something that once the Harvest Daze, you get that community input, then over the winter, they're always looking for jobs in the winter time.
I don't know, just throwing that out there. Just,
I know this is something you're trying to get a decision on, kind of go towards, but.
No, this has been very productive. I think we have some direction now. And, I'll work with Mr. Curtis, and I think, from what I've written down,
I have another crazy idea. What if we redesign what's already in there? What's already there? Okay. Redesign those and move those fields around because we fit more elsewhere.
You know, I was thinking about that up in the corner where we've got the dog park. Not that I want to do a dog park, but if we were to,
Maybe
we got the
flip the
land
field
up
around or
on
something.
the other side of this dog park. We have kind of parking there.
Yeah.
If we move, and then can you have another field, a T-ball field over here? Because you get this
is that storage lot?
triangular area, or, you know, put the dog park closer down here, so it's
Not so far.
actually more accessible to the people. They don't have to walk all the way to here to get to the dog park. We have a dog park over here as opposed to there. You know, just, I know we put a fence around the dog park that costs money, you know, but this is just ideas. You know, it'd be nice if we had just this chunk of land that we didn't have anything on, and we're just putting things here and there. We could utilize the whole thing better than what we're able to now, because then the way you got it now is all this area behind the baseball fields, the softball fields is just
That storage lot to the west
Well,
of the dog park, is that going away?
no.
Okay,
Now, keep in mind, behind the east field, there's no space, it's all detention pond now.
right.
So only behind the west field, there's that space is available for some. We have all those trees back there, you know, we need those trees back there. I don't know.
But that little fenced-in area is staying next to the dog park.
We need that for storage, maintenance, equipment.
There's no fence back there on the north side of the
Blues
field.
are gonna go.
Sorry.
No, there's not.
That's what I'm saying, I think we need the trees there.
Yeah, the trees are.
Yeah.
We could,
There could be, I mean, the tornado siren is in the, what we call that, the rock lodge. That was a very large, it was 100 foot by 100 foot, wasn't it, Troy?
monopole.
The big monopole that was in there that was removed. The tornado siren is in the northwest corner, and Telos has an antenna in the southeast west corner. Now, we've got a Connex, the football club has a Connex over there with equipment and that kind of thing. There's some potential that yes, if we took some of that storage once the new SDR is built and we get rid of the wetlands and we've got room out there, Is there some room to possibly pop that Connex in out there or something along those lines?
We could cut that area in half at least, if
Yeah.
not more, and then re-fence it, then you could open up more area toward the dog park side to redevelop.
Yes.
Just pull that rock out, remove the fence.
It's hard to throw away the infrastructure of the baseball and softball fields, right? You got lights, you got sprinklers.
Well,
da, da, da.
I mean, I'm not
You
talking
gotta
about
keep
throwing
that.
it away, but trying to utilize at least this, maybe this area.
No, yeah, I totally agree.
behind the
I don't think you can
west
move the fields though, right? Like, they
No,
have to stay.
but
No,
I mean,
big
those are
lights.
there.
Anything's possible.
You can, but I just, the waste of taxpayer dollars, I just feel like it's tough to swallow on that.
And to me, that goes back to why this site was purchased and donated to the town, and these fields were built not with town money, by volunteers, a lot of them. I've talked to them. And to me, that'd be insulting to those people who did all that. I don't want to go down that
And then
road.
the concession stand was pretty much donated.
I mean,
The Tetris better
Well,
with
the
what we got.
concession stand.
The volleyball pits that are in there right now, that was something that town staff and the grader operator and the backhoe operator, we put the pit in over there so that, and then the concrete plant has donated the sand over the years for us to put in there and fill it up with water for the Harvest Daze volleyball. It's a great volleyball, Harvest Daze pit. It's not an ideal sand volleyball pit. It's better than nothing, but it's not ideal necessarily. But yes, in my personal opinion, and this is stated not as the public works director, just as somebody that's sitting here looking at the space, like Troy just said, if we revamp the portion of the rock lot, half or a third of that needed to stay for antenna access and that kind of thing, and then the dog park was redone and the horseshoes, volleyball, whatever, there could be some reconfiguring of all of that, because there isn't a ton of, the only thing that we have in there right now that we've paid for infrastructure wise is the new power that we've run over there for the light poles.
We've got a lot of power over there, but the rest of this on the west side is relatively easy to just tear out and put something new back in. I mean, it's sand. We just put in some light
Fence
poles, and we
posts.
can relocate those. I mean, it's fence posts. It's not hard at all.
Right.
So,
Well, and I've heard the cornhole, I mean, Janet's got some portable cornhole boards right now, and that works great when you go out into the field. You can do that on an asphalt driveway, you can do that on a grass field, you can do it on the infield of a baseball. They make non-portable, Troy and I have looked at them a couple of times. We've thought about down at Riverview Park or some other, and we could put them in here if we're looking at a more permanent location. They actually make concrete cornhole boards that you have to put little ramp protectors to keep the kids from using them as a ramp for their bikes, but other than that, they do have those. You bring your own bean bags and you can play anytime you want, and so we could put those along with the horseshoes somewhere. But all right, I'm off my soapbox, sorry.
so what direction am I going?
Well, you were gonna put together some pictures for us, I think.
I will. I think I'll put together a variety that you can still modify.
Well, why even bother until we get the list? Why don't we just wait till Harvest Daze and get the list of the things that we want from the people?
I think if we showed them some pictures of
Some ideas,
some
some
concepts,
Sure.
we discussed here. We got we got this picture, we got this picture.
This coat or this
and-
jacket?
This is just hard to look at for me right now. So showing it to the community in this form, I don't personally think is a good idea. So unless you're gonna spend some money and make it look a little cooler, see, I get some agreement back there. Then I don't personally think you should present it to the community in this format. But that's my opinion.
What kind of money are we talking?
What?
What kind of money are we talking?
You have to talk to the town manager about that.
Yeah, that's 20, 30, 40,000 probably to do the graphics. I mean, they're not cheap.
I think it's that much. We got something cool from Playwell. Yeah, but that's a thing that's out of the box thing we already have. But
Yeah,
they're
that's
free
all-
when they're quotes.
Yeah, that's all pre-packaged, and
Right.
then you're paying for a tiny piece, with everyone else paying for a tiny piece what they've already designed. This is a scratch project.
What about like a college sort of thing. See, haven't you talked to, I've had to work with them in the
We've
past, like on
used
Main Street.
college students on several projects, the Main Street drainage and streetscape, and nice young kids. They're not gonna give you what you want. I don't think.
Sure.
I'm not talking about anybody.
Oh, you're good, yeah. It hurts.
You know, they're doing a first semester first class award or grade or whatever, you know, but, I can reach out to FHU and some other places and see what they have.
I mean, these sort of places that design parks have a field, a stock field that they can slide over a Google map, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, they should have those sort of images already ready to go. They can scale into our Google map, or Earth.
When we did the thing on Main Street, nobody had a problem looking at a picture like this. At least that I know.
And I think if, you know, granted, we love to give them this beautiful picture, but if we can blow some of these up, put them up, and just ask people, what do you think? What do you like, what don't you like? Put stickers on it, or whatever the case may be, just to give us an idea of where the community wants to go. Because like I said, I have my idea, but that's not necessarily what the community, people who are going to use it, that's not necessarily how they feel. So, but we don't want to fork 20 grand into the pictures for them, and we're going to throw new stuff away at the end.
Let me come up with a couple of versions for the board to look at, and I'll bring them back. I can probably bring them back in July, so we have more prep time for Harvest Daze, and promote this and get people's input. But as of tonight, we're not ready for that.
Right.
And we can, but we're using this.
Yeah. I would say something is better than nothing, so if you do anything, it's just an improvement.
Modifying this is real quick and easy for Mr. Curtis to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I don't know how to glorify, you know, like horseshoe pits and volleyball pits and open space. I mean, gymnasiums, obviously, community centers, those that you make 3D and look great, like you do at the senior center.
I would just say icons. You know.
Going to Alaska anytime soon.
I know, right? You know, something easy, horseshoe pits, just something like that. If we were to do anything, just.
Yeah, then like an open space, I'm sure
Yeah.
Brad, whatever software he's using, I mean, you could
Yep.
put dotted lines to outline like a soccer field or something, you know, simple.
Is there anything else that you may have heard or you're thinking of besides what's already on the map as far as amenities? I mean, somebody got, you know, the splash pad. I mean, you can't completely fill it in, obviously. You gotta have space for.
So is adding a playground completely out of?
I don't think so. I would add, if the, again, it goes to all the traveling I do on the weekends, you know, with that little t-ball field, there's a little turf, little playground.
Right.
Cause it seems like every 5-year-old has a 2-year-old brother or sister. I swear to God they do. And if you put the t-ball field maybe closer over by the community center to where the gym's gonna be, easy access. It could be used by all. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But it wouldn't be a big Lincoln Park playground. It would be a smaller amenity with climbing stuff.
Right.
It would be for the 14.
Could you almost get rid of the shed that's there now?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Put it there, because it's right by the picnic tables, right?
Mhm.
And then if, you know, if the plan is still to move or build a shed here, just move that stuff to there, just make it a big enough shed, have garage doors on it that are, you know, whatever.
Yeah, good point.
What about putting that little playground in between the baseball fields and that property there? There's that walkway, like leave the t-ball field where it's at, on your design, and then the property that's there, right? You know, there's that walkway.
Oh, in between, behind this property?
Behind Dirk's.
No, behind Dirk's and the.
Or sorry, Dirk's.
Yeah.
Westfield.
There's plenty of room to put a little playground in there.
Well, if the t-ball field's still on that side, that would probably be a decent location.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The t-ball field went to the other side, obviously.
Right.
And then I also think about the community center, when there's rentals, those kids, they find something to tear up.
Yeah, we've been wanting to have.
I'll be
fun.
honest with you,
Yeah.
I mean, they just do.
Yeah.
So,
See, and I kind of like the idea, I thought someone had thrown it out before, was to move maybe that coach pitch T-ball next to kind of where that gymnasium was. So move that over there, you put the playground there, you can still have your fields or whatever, and it doesn't affect anything, you have your open space and room for expansion.
it did rid of that storm drainage through there, I mean, a field over that drainage pipe when I heard it all, was
Not a bit.
I was just
Well, I'm
gonna
just saying,
ask
just
about
put it
that.
right there, and you can make a walk path, like a path right to it or something, you can have trees, whatever, you know?
Yeah, we could, depending on what playground equipment go in there, if it's not a big structure and it doesn't have to have a lot of footings or foundations put with it, we could probably, anything that needed a little bit deeper, we could probably go to one side or the other of that drainage culvert and put something like that. You know, that little spinner down there at Riverview Park is probably the most popular playground piece of equipment that we have in town. And we could set one of those, I mean, I call it a puke machine, but, yeah, we could set one of those far enough off of the drainage through there. I mean, somebody mentioned the community garden, I was thinking that we've already got some irrigation, I mean, most of that's gonna go away when we do the drainage through there, but, you know, a raised garden bed could go along there pretty easily as well, if we were looking for something, but yeah, I think a small playground or even your small field could go over the top of that without it. I mean, I don't know, is there enough room in the detention pond on the northeast corner of the baseball diamond up there for the small field?
no.
It wouldn't work in a rainstorm, but.
Hey, then you could have grandstands. I did see something like that in Texas, it was actually pretty cool.
You know, in Evans off 37th, you know, in that Sam's area, they have a drainage like that, but they have a little picnic area and playground in that, you know, and but I was thinking, you know, they have it there in Evans, and it's been there for years, and that could be a good use of putting something in, you know, because we're not always gonna fill with water.
Right.
The only other thing I can think of too would be, because I see it get used a lot at Lincoln Park, is the structure of the gazebo with like the permanent barbecue pits in it. Somewhere where if that one's busy, they can go there and have like a little barbecue or picnic tables underneath a covered area. Because that's the only one in town I can think of that's covered.
So you got about a billion different ideas, Troy. Give us a picture of every one.
I think simplicity, I mean, I do like your idea of making it a little bit more glamorous, but simplicity might be helpful for the public now.
Spencer was showing me some software. Make that picture.
This is what I'm talking about, just something that makes it look a little more realistic.
Okay.
So you can imagine that. I think this is a $300 software, within this package is free to do that, but kind of pass this around, so. You just need to pay somebody a day's
Basically
time
do
to.
Well, I was just
Generate
wondering,
some
say,
color
we get
pictures.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
4 or 5 different options.
I just think that presents a lot better to the
I
public.
see, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Mr.
Just
Kurtz
copy and paste
has
that and we'll.
a company that probably
Yes,
does that,
that goes
for not
alongside.
very much,
Yeah,
this
we
was
should
just
do
his render for now.
3D imaging, something a little bit too
Sure, you gotta pay.
stimulating,
Yeah.
but yeah, something like that.
It's just hard to look at this and imagine what it's actually gonna look like. You know, you grade out all the cool, even our baseball fields look, I'm not
Right.
excited about those, they're gray.
So you want a color scheme, you don't want the 3D, I thought you wanted the 3D kind of.
No, just
a color scheme, okay.
Something to kind of represent each thing.
Yeah.
Fluff it up, right?
That's
Yeah.
much easier than what I thought you meant.
Yeah.
We could get one of those felt boards and get Velcro.
Oh, yeah.
People can Velcro where they want the stuff.
I thought that you were gonna ask for it to be the black velvet, and then one board meeting, you guys would each color in the sections. And
We can do that too. I mean,
People
Just
that are
saying.
drinking alcohol are gonna be doing this.
That was a pretty good concept.
Well, there's some different ideas, so I'll come up with some variations, and at the end, the result may be a combination of those variations.
Yeah.
Honestly, just. But, you know, it's a good problem to have,
Yes,
honestly.
yeah, it's awesome
So-
that we have the area.
Before I move forward, let's talk about the Dinah's property. There's, Mr. Silva's here, and he has told me for many, many years, since I've known him, that he's got some interest in a part of that northern parcel,
The 40-foot, right?
a 40-foot easement. And he made a point, we were talking on the phone today, where existing ball fields have what appears to be about that same, it's just owned by the town. Instead of abutting up to his property. I told him I'd bring it back up again tonight. He'd have versions of the old, what I call site plan, that shows one with and one without. In the last hour or so, a lot of conversations have been had where what we have right now on paper is definitely going to change. So I definitely want to mention that to the board for conversation. And what your thoughts on that will be.
Well, just like you said, I mean, we've basically given that type of easement to the folks who have properties in Garden Greens. And I'm kind of the opinion that, you know, when it comes to the community, we not only owe people in our community the best we give, but even people who, when we build something, we have to take into consideration who's around. I mean, that's the way to do things, and that's my opinion. And if it means we park 10 less cars or have to move something around, I mean, I think you do it.
Obviously, without the field there and this can be open space, it might impact how much parking we need. People just simply walk from the community complex side to the south side up to that area, or design some parking off Division.
I'm still not opposed to doing easement, but the decision the board had on this before was that we would wait until we made a decision on the site plan, which we have not done. So I do not see how we can move forward with allowing the easement until that's been done.
And I don't disagree with that. I just know, I believe, I'm not going to speak for Nick, but I think Nick has some plans in the real near future, far future, whatever, but I don't want to, in all fairness to Mr. Silva, leave him hanging. So I'm not saying you have to make a decision, but if I can come back a month from now and then have some better solid ideas for the board, would that appease both you and Mr. Silva?
Yeah, one
Not
comment.
drag it out to like 2022 or 23, but I'm saying within reasonable means of time. Is that fair?
Here for the city. Like I've said, I've been here 20 years. In the early 80s, I did the first phase of Rogers Farm, sat in front of it. Mike didn't come in till later on, but I've sat in this room a lot. And then when we built Jim Plum subdivision, sat in many of the meetings, and that's when I fell in love with Platteville. And I said, you know, I'm going to move out here. And then I was lucky enough to buy the Farley place 20 years ago and seen the town grow off of a lot of camaraderie back then, meeting the Dynases and the Sturkles and everybody. I just think it's a great community. And like I said before, I was very close friends with Glenn and Nancy, and we had an unwritten first right of refusal. And when they passed away, the daughters called me and I said, you know, do what you got to do, and you know, just contact me when you sell it. And then the more I thought about it, that's when I approached Troy and said, we can't let this property go. I said, so I'm going to buy it, no matter what. And then I mentioned to David years back that we'll figure out something for drainage or something. And I thought more about it, met with Troy several times, and I said, okay, I'll just bow out of this deal. And Troy was very good. I want to tell you, you got a good guy there. I said, make sure you get this property. because I had a couple, no names mentioned, oh, let's buy it and develop it. I said, no, we won't. I want it a little buffer to keep, and Troy was right on with your guys' vision, to give back to the community. And so I graciously bowed out, and I even offered Troy, I said, if the city needs a partner to buy it, if you, for some reason, could get funds or something, I said, let's make sure we get this property to expand that. And my initial plans was, I was gonna peel out an acre. I thought I needed an acre, but I did to expand the shop that I wanted to do. And that's when I approached Troy and said, I only need 50 feet. And it just seemed cleaner talking to all my in-staff engineers, and it was cleaner for the city to get it, to annex it in and peel me off a piece. Because what it did, drive up the cost for when I sell it back to the city. And that's kind of how that story went. But
Everybody good with waiting for money?
I think just the proposal, at this point. Decide what we want, what the proposal is, and or.
We have to Harvest Daze, shouldn't it? Not a month, it should be after.
He's gonna get some more definite
We're
drawings.
gonna want this.
I will bring this back to the board for the second record meeting in July. Can we add that to the agenda? Do that?
So we're waiting for people to input on Harvest Daze, like, as we're saying.
See, it isn't going to change a ton what we're gonna do with this property.
I 100% agree.
And I think he'd like an answer, he'd like to know where he stands, and you all have heard what he has to say. We could have wound up, and he's probably too polite to say it, we could have wound up in a bidding war with the gentleman over there.
guaranteed.
Property could have cost us a lot more than it did. And he stepped back. He didn't, he didn't contest with us on getting this property. And we want it, and I think we need to
No,
embrace
I think we can work with less than 40 feet.
Yeah,
with what we
what's
want
the
to
width
do.
of this room about, probably?
Well, yeah, about the length, 50
Yeah.
feet. And that's why I think it gives me enough buffer. I want to expand my shop 50 feet. Spencer made a good point that Ding Dong 60 years ago built a shop about 6 inches from the property line. And I want to extend 40 feet out, and that's when I told Troy we leave a 10-foot buffer. And I told him the city or whatever, you guys are more than welcome if you got to get equipment or run something through there. That's why we went out
That's
to
not
that.
how it's gonna look. Like, he's gonna take, you like how it looks across the top of those fields. That's not how it's gonna look. It's gonna have a shop there.
It is.
Right.
Understand.
But we can still fit what we want to do, minus the 40, 50 feet that he wants.
And there's already a shop there.
Yeah.
They just extended it out. And we're all in consensus that we're gonna do away with that baseball field and make it a multi-purpose field. Make it, horizontal on that, and I think we still have plenty of room on the top. My thing is, the fence that you have up there now, are you gonna put the razor wire and chain link?
Well,
too?
I took that down on that side,
Okay.
and that was the other thing. You know, if for some, which I hope if I don't end up, probably yeah, I'll put it back up on that south side. Because I guarantee you balls are gonna come flying in there or what have you, baseballs. I'll be calling you for my shop. But that buffer, it's gonna create enough buffer like trying to, big apps, I played a lot of baseball, and it's gonna happen. And I even thought about changing for the, because when I had my surveyors out there, when they surveyed everything, you have pretty much an existing 50-foot easement between all those ball fields and the home, where you're talking about the fence and it's all trees. So anyway, push come to shove, it'd probably end up being in there anyway. The trees, and you wouldn't be able to use that 50 feet. And that's when I started thinking, I better just take 50 feet and not 100. And then I even thought about having my design engineer just doing the shop over here for a while, but I didn't like that because I want to see the ball fields. I want to see the kids and stuff. But yeah, we just extend out here. It wouldn't really look any different because I want to be able to see the ball field.
Now you want to come south 40 feet or less than 40 feet?
40. 40, and that's why we said the 10-foot setback. Or if, depending on time, just kind of, look, every time I keep quoting the shop weight, and it's went up 30,000 this year already.
Yeah.
The price, from January 1.
Well, we know that one.
But I wanted to work with the city too, and with the youth Spencer brought it, yeah, I thought, well, maybe I'll change, because all my property, historically, there was a pond here, drains here, that got filled in, which I told David I'd take care of it. But I even thought, if it helped with the aesthetics of the park or anything, maybe I would do something. It cost me a little more to do something here, because this, I don't really like looking at this neighbor, it's kind of bad.
Well, you got a huge pond right there to drain into now.
Well, yeah. But I've seen that area come up and go out.
Really?
Yeah. But I thought if it helped the city or something, maybe I'd go this way. If you wanted to keep everything open, because there's not going to be lights or anything, is there? On those fields?
No, probably not on the open space or soccer field. I don't think so.
Just a couple strategically placed into your bedroom window.
Well, no, we're, as long as it's not the girls playing their stereos full blast. I don't mind. I love seeing the kids.
Troy, what's your recommendation?
Well, I just want to clarify, if the shop, what Nick's proposing is 40 feet wide, then to meet the 10-foot setback, it would actually be a 50-foot easement, not a 40-foot.
Well, remember I said I needed 50 feet.
And then I would request from you, if the town did this, then the outer 10-foot, the setback limit would be a dedicated easement back to the town that we could use.
Sure. That's what
Even though you want it, we would be able to have full right for use of that 10.
Sure. That's why I said, and then if, depending on the fence, what we decide, if we gotta do something, utility or something, you bet.
Put a walk path right by the fence.
Yeah.
Then you can drive on it if you need to, make it
That's
accessible.
part of the perimeter walking
Yeah.
slash ATV if we need access.
Have it go right down onto Vision. That way you can ride a bike up or a scooter or a wheelchair, an ambulance, whatever. I'm sure at some point that's gonna be a rule.
Probably. Even though it doesn't show on this, when I was working with Brad Curtis, this property, this 5 acres, is roughly 315 feet wide and 660 feet long, south to north, north to south. So if you want to do a like this youth-size soccer field, this is not a football field, it's a youth-size soccer field. It's 240 feet long by 135 feet wide, based upon what I've researched. If that's the case, you could put 2 of these back to back up here.
Do we have to have that 25-foot setback on Reynolds?
That's an argument between me and the town engineer.
We can go 15 feet?
That was the
That would give us-
recommendation or the standard, and I'm still discussing that with Mr. Curtis.
Okay, because that was something where we can gain back 10 feet there.
And I told him if that needed to be a 25 setback by engineering standards, then it's gonna be a parking lot. It's gonna be parking off the division. Just to me, we only utilize the space. People can come off the division, and this is an open space, they can park right there.
Yeah.
And then they can overflow park across the street, because we own that property too, where the outlaw is. Because that's south, it isn't showing it. The detention ponds are across from Nick's house in the north. Across from this area is where that tank battery and these wells are plugged, so we can park over there.
Right. We got the whole spot over there, we can make a parking lot. Yeah.
Do you guys have the old that old shed that's there? Is that your property too, Troy?
No, that's not Earl Ryder's old property.
So you guys don't own the shed that's there?
The one that's falling
Kind of
apart?
Oh, the one that's falling apart?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
goes
that's
away.
away,
about
yeah.
Oh,
60
okay,
days.
you have that too?
Yeah, the one that John was using?
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes down.
Yeah.
It'll probably go down in the next month or so. But leave it alone, it'll probably get some bigger.
We might be able to sell it.
Uh,
You're right.
Yeah.
We do with the maintenance. It's gonna be a house now.
So, what do you want me to do on this
Everybody good with
discussion?
just putting it on the next agenda?
Say, what he's proposing on the agenda. Let's decide.
Jeremiah?
Yeah.
We wanna,
I mean, at the end of the day, we have to vote on it, so it's either yes or no. So,
And if
I mean,
we
what's-
can get it voted on and get it done with so he can move forward or whatever decided, so.
well, scheduling wise, talking to Danette and Mary, we typically cancel the first meeting of July to this, right next to the 4th of July. So it'll be a month from next Tuesday, the second meeting in July, which I will, whether you want me to or not, when I have some different conceptual maps for you to look at,
We want you to.
which you will look at before you make the decision on the silt ball agreement. Fair enough?
That's fair enough.
Okay.
And you know,
That way I can draw these fields so you can see how they fit.
Yes,
being of conceptual maps too is, you know, money's gotta be there.
Mhm.
Money might not come for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And then the concept may be different.
Yeah, maybe we will have a bunch of soccer players and.
So, you know, it's just like, you know,
Very good point.
city master plans or whatever, you know, they change.
Well, even if this multi-use field, I mean, looking at some of the parks my son practices in Greeley, it's a big open space, and what the city crew does is in each corner, they put an infield dirt field. That way teams can practice, and the kids are out in the middle of the field playing soccer. There's ways of doing it. And that's why Janet can put up for temporary netting for the team. So there's ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Maybe we'll come into a bunch of money and we can ask for turf the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay.
No irrigation, no mowing.
So what's the second meeting date of July? Do you know? So it'll be the 20th. The first meeting will be scheduled on July 6th. I'm recommending canceling that because 4th of July will be on.
We have July 20th.
So July 20th, this will be back on for discussion. Okay. Think that good with you?
Yeah, whatever works with you guys. Not too long.
July 20th to 2021, how about that?
There you go.
Alright, now I'm gonna turn over to David, so I'm tired of talking. This book, is Jan's gonna leave us?
So why didn't we talk about this first?
No.
Is your friend that millionaire?
Yeah, well, I know Sally.
I was like, wow, wondered if you knew her.
Yeah, I think every senior sent me a text message and
popular
asked, oh
person.
my gosh, do you know this person?
Yeah.
No. Feel sorry for poor Sally right now.
Yeah, probably.
She's probably had a lot of friends to try and call her.
Thank you guys.
Vaccine,
Thanks for coming
one of them, yeah.
Troy, can I throw out one idea to you? When I
Sure.
I might send, I mean, on his email, I might send you an AutoCAD. We got all this in 3D almost. When we were messing with this, I think you got enough time you could move this over here. And you guys are thinking like we were thinking, this could be parking, or you could leave it grass or leave you open for your expansion, or here. And you could use that for parking. And then they field,
Awesome.
this field was hit. Not there yet, and then it leaves it all set up for future development, because we're gonna show you.
Thank you.
We were just looking at that.
Well, we don't make oxygen, that's their setback here.
Pardon me?
As long as you don't make accidental mad, we have to keep it on, because that's their setback here.
I thought you guys ended up with that.
Well, we bought the property, but they still have rights to that pad side. because that's where the tank battery is.
Like they
But
do.
we'll talk about that.
For environmental, you think?
Full size or something like that. Make it like a full, active one, I think that'd be.
Cause those are huge.
Maybe
David,
make it
talk
like
to us. Like the cemetery being done, huh?
I'm gonna step out for just a minute. David, saw yours.
Sounds like people are dying to get in there.
They are. They're the quietest residents I have in town though.
That was my dad today.
Go back to the 1800s.
Nobody up there has a next door account, so that's a good thing.
No, there's a couple. There's a couple.
It's like they're on the voting roll too.
Yeah.
They send emails.
So, what we have here is another concept idea that was based on the cemetery layout, the plats in Windsor. And it's significantly different than what we have right now. Basically what this does is it would allow Public Works room to actually get in there and not have to move another stone to dig a grave like we currently have to sometimes. This wouldn't allow quite as many spaces as if we did what the original layout in the western part of the cemetery would be. But this gives us a little over 1,000 spaces, additional spaces. And I want to say that we have used around 200 spaces in the 13 years I've been here. So that should give us a fair number of years, depending on the number of people that we have move into town that would be interested in. And these are full body spaces, and what we allow right now is if somebody wants to buy a full body space, but they want to use it for one full body, and then they're allowed to place 6 cremations on top of that full body, or they can put the cremations in, and if they start with the cremations, then obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, we don't allow them to put a full body below already interned cremations. So we don't get
in each one of these little squares, 6 cremations.
Correct, yes. Our current space size is 8 foot by 4 foot. But what this is with the 7.5 foot space, that actually is giving us room to put a headstone up above it, whereas I should say our existing spaces are 9 foot by 4 foot. And that's where we get into trouble, because if somebody places a headstone, if a spouse dies and they go ahead and put a headstone in, and the other spouse has not passed yet, we quite often have to remove that headstone in order to put another full body in, because the headstone actually covers part of the existing grave. So with this concept, we would be putting the headstones outside of the space area, and with the 5 foot in between each set versus having them head to toe, it would give us enough room to continue to dig the grave without having to disturb the other graves.
So the headstones are going to go in that space between the squares?
They would, with the...
For both sides?
And that's a little bit deceptive. Right now, typically, tradition holds that you are buried with your head to the west so that the sun rises on your face. So that's the way that most of our, all of the bodies that I am aware of are buried that way in the current part of the cemetery, with the head to the west, the feet to the east. There are a few headstones in the original part of the cemetery where they went ahead and put the engraving on the west side of the headstone versus the east side. Most of them have the east side engraved so that as you walk up to the grave, you're able to see who it is that was buried there. What we're looking at here is, and one of the concepts that Mr. Curtis has brought up is a lot of newer cemeteries, newer work that's being done in cemeteries is they've gone to the flat headstones because that helps with the maintenance, it helps with the mowing, it helps with the sprinkling, all those kinds of things. From the maintenance perspective, I think that's a fantastic idea. From the character of the cemetery, I think it's a terrible idea. If I'm having a bad day down here, there's a lot of times I can go up to the cemetery and just spend a little bit of time, do something, clean up a little something that I find, pick up some branches, find some quiet time up there. But I tell you, the character of the cemetery, having the headstones is pretty amazing. The kicker is we've got some people that want a headstone this tall, and we've got some people that want a headstone this tall. So I will be coming back to you with currently right now, the way our regulations read is the headstone shall not go more than 20% of the size of the space. So does that mean, well, I bought 6 spaces so I can have, a headstone this big, or I get a really skinny tall one, so then I've got this line across the neighbor's grave where the sprinkler no longer gets it, and we deal with that kind of thing all the time. And we'll still have to deal with that a little bit. But one of the things that Brad Curtis had mentioned is he putting in an actual concrete row where the headstones are going to go. And we actually could have the markings then at each space so that people can actually identify where those spaces are. Right now, our markers are either a concrete in the old original western part of the cemetery, or on the eastern part, it's an aluminum marker that has the number, but the sod grows over the top of it, and we have to go measuring and use a metal detector and try to find those and that kind of thing. So one of the ideas would be to have a mow row, is what we call it, where we would have a concrete, a 1.5 foot probably wide concrete foundation, a permanent foundation, so people would know exactly when they were looking at space 6, 5, 4, etc. But it also then, it would be set in such a way that as the headstones get placed on that, we're not paying a maintenance crew to come in and have to weed whack around every individual headstone, where they could just put their mowing deck right at the edge of that and mow over the edge of it. Kind of what we did over at the ballpark on the mow band around the fencing there.
Okay, so, but this concept is still gonna be head facing west, headstone on the west on both of these?
Correct. We'd have a headstone here, we'd have a headstone here, kind of thing. So, couple of the other modifications that we haven't shown on here yet would be, we're only gonna probably have one entrance onto County Road 27, which is the dirt driveway back to the Frost property and the Norris property. Technically, it is Well County Road 27, but it's a non-maintained Well County Road. So one of the things that a couple of our guys have mentioned, we end up with people backing into the fences up here, trying to get out of the cemetery, or they get into the one-way, and then you've got somebody that doesn't back up very well and that kind of thing. So one of the concepts that we would be looking at would be trying to figure out the spacing to possibly put bubbles, a little bit of a cul-de-sac or whatever in those areas, so somebody can pull in, maybe not your, crew cab extra long pickup and actually spin without having to do a 2 or 3 point turn, but most people in a smaller car would be able to come in, turn to go back. Now, one of the other ideas that this slopes to the north considerably. We have added some fill over in this area over the years, and we'll still probably be adding some fill because we've got extra coming from the sewer plant project that will be added out there. But one of the concepts is to put in some retaining walls along these edges and kind of do this in 3 phases possibly, where we could do this eastern or this southern phase, then the mid phase, and then that, or we can try and do it all at once depending on what the board decides. But we just wanted to get some feedback, some thoughts. If you guys sort of like this concept idea, if you hate this concept idea, what?
Personally, I think we're giving a lot of burial space up for roads. 25 foot, that's huge, isn't it? I mean, that's a standard road width. I mean, typically you've got 2 12-foot lanes.
if you were gonna have 2 cars go through. We could probably reduce that, Adrian, and go down to 1 lane. We'd have to figure out a traffic pattern to make sure that we have everybody in a one-way.
Just drive around the back, that's how I was cemetery with that, right?
Yeah.
Just go down.
It's
So-
all one way, yeah.
And that could be arranged and could certainly, you know, shrink that a little bit. I mean, this is a 20-foot roadway here. It was 25 down here because we were kind of contemplating that this would be the main exit, or if we were feeding other people in. So that was, but I think, and maybe these are 25 here as well, I'd have to check. It was only 20 between here, but we could probably reduce that to 15. I mean, part of the idea was if you had a large funeral up there and you had people pulled off one side of the road, you still had enough room for somebody that was leaving earlier. If you're standing around talking to Mr. Blum and your car happened to be ahead of theirs, leaving enough room for them to get by.
All the other cemeteries have 1-lane roads and they don't have a problem with that.
Okay, well, and
I don't, that's just,
This road goes away, these stay, and then goes on the backside.
Make a big loop.
Just a loop. And they leave this wide because this is really the only viable entrance, and with the pillars it's narrow. Having a big event, whether a memorial or a cemetery, funeral, having this as an exit out, well, this is still an entrance, makes a lot of sense.
You're saying have an exit to the east, you straight out, and the entrance to the west coming in?
People can come and go on a normal
Clockwise.
occasion, on a big event. We could have a sign that says exit, so they're coming out one way and they're going in another.
Yeah.
Because,
We can use County Road 27 for that, too.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's what I
we're
mean,
not-
exit on the 27 and come back to 32.
Oh.
And the thing about 27 is that actually, I don't know how many of you have tried to go in and out this main entrance by the Veterans Memorial. When we're having a big event, we had a funeral there late last week that we probably had 200 cars at. We end up running traffic control on 32 and a half, just hoping to not have another funeral with the trucks coming over the hill.
yes.
County Road 27, it sits a little bit higher on the hill, so people have a little bit better shot of seeing any westbound traffic to be able to get out and that kind of thing. So those are.
Where's it? So that's the end of our town limits, basically. So
Correct.
speed limit wise,
It goes to 35 at the cemetery and then 25 down the hill.
yeah,
I
it
think so.
goes, but it doesn't go till then. Up until that point, it's 55, 65 miles an hour.
55.
I think it's 55.
Is there anything we can do with regards to the county to say, hey, we've, you know,
But
we
they
need
come
to
back
get
to-
them to start slowing down,
And they're starting to put those houses right there too.
You know,
I mean, maybe that could be a
coming
talking
down to
point.
45 miles an
Yeah, as far
hour
as-
sooner, rather than right when they're hitting our entrance and exit. Especially if we're gonna start using County Road 27 as a.
Yeah, once you, because there's a, at the dairy entrance, there's a low spot, start coming back up to the cemetery, maybe we talk to the county about making that rise back to the cemetery 45, and that goes to 35.
Yeah,
Where it
I mean,
gets down,
just to get them slowing down
Yeah.
before they screw 'em up on there, especially if we've got people coming in and out Memorial Day or whatever.
Well, and another concept with some of the, different lighted signs and things like that we had looked at. Many of you have probably seen the county stop signs that they've put at a lot of the intersections around, or at least the higher speed intersections with the red flashing lights all the way around. One of the concepts that we wondered about would be a slow funeral ahead or funeral procession or something like that we could literally run up and turn on that would start flashing when we've got people coming in or going out. Wouldn't want it on all the time because wouldn't want people get so used to it that they never pay attention to it. But it is a thought when we've got a big service going on up there to have something along those lines. Most of the time we take one of the public works trucks and park it up the hill with the lights on, just to kind of get their attention. So, This is still very much a concept, Adrian, your idea of narrower roads, getting a few more spaces, maybe trying to make sure we've got a bubble where somebody can turn around if we need to, if we're not gonna run all of them out to 27. I think especially you get somebody that's a little bit older trying to get in there and they pull in to get close to their deceased spouse's spot, and then they're trying to get turned around, and it's where we end up with little dings and this and that. Does the idea of a little bit of a tier, 24 to 30 inches, bother anybody, or do you like that idea to kind of level it out a little, or what are your thoughts on that?
So each one of these 6 squares or whatever would be up.
Basically, there would be a little bit of a retaining wall on the north side, correct? A little bit of a retaining wall here, then your road, a little bit of a retaining wall here, then the road, just to level this out a little bit, so it's not quite such a dive.
I thought we were talking about doing away with those roads. Or
Making them
ones
narrow.
going this way?
Yeah.
Or just go this.
We just got a solid block, and we're coming in, and I understand getting closer,
Right.
but
Still to level it out, I think.
I mean,
well, you can still tear it out.
whether we had a road there or not, we could tier it.
Yeah, you can
I
still
mean, we
tear it,
could,
yeah.
we could put a tier in here and then add a few more spaces. Put a tier in here and add a few more spaces
Well, I
up
would-
to that tier.
I would
but-
still have some kind of road access for our guys to get in there.
Right.
Would one, just one
have grass.
Just have it.
north-south road down the middle be?
So something through here and then just, is that what you're thinking? Is that what you're saying, Mike?
I don't know, you mean, you like this concept for access,
Backhoe can't reach
but at the
that.
same time, we try to maximize the number of, so at what point are we putting you back in the same position that we have
Right.
currently, so.
Well, and that's something where we can sit down and go, the beauty of the CAD system that the engineers have is that we can manipulate this a little bit and play with it and see what we think, and then we can start they have shot the topographical study, or the survey up there, so we can lay that in and see what how much slope we really do have, is if we're trying to tier up, do we come up two mason blocks, those decorative mason blocks, and use those, or I don't know.
Would you tier it like a little slope with the grass or something?
Well, we could possibly do something like that too. I don't know for sure.
Are you, we got some really nice beautiful trees and stuff for shade and things like that. Are you incorporating that into this? So we got room for some trees and stuff, so we do have that same.
We were starting to lay this out first, and then we were gonna start to figure out where those tree rows would go and that kind of thing. Yes, that's part of the consideration, so.
So we definitely want to start planting young trees at the cemetery and at Lincoln Park, because once all the beautiful developed trees start dying out, we're gonna all, we don't want just little trees out there.
Right, yeah.
So we need to tier our tree planting.
Yeah.
I really don't have any other, super fantastic ideas right at this point as far as, the overflow parking area there to the north of the Veterans Memorial. We have talked about the idea of some kind of permanent public restrooms of some sort. We don't know whether we could do we potentially would have enough room to possibly even put a leach field, potentially, if we were gonna try and do something more permanent in nature, where we weren't gonna have the pit toilets that are pumped on, the porta johns that are pumped.
Speaking of, is that similar to what Larry Rebecca was talking about, those fully one system potties?
Right.
At the parks? Maybe that's what you're talking about, that they get dumped like every 6 months or so, or get siphoned out?
Yeah,
Well,
They utilize the water that comes off the roof.
Oh,
The
well, I'm not
rainwater.
100% sure. I know that Brad Curtis had brought up different types of facilities that are used in national parks and in national forest areas and that kind of thing.
It's a glorified outhouse.
Right.
Porta potty, but you
Yeah.
can, I've seen them temporarily brought into events, and like when my son got married, they brought in one, and it was all stainless steel, but they make them to where you can permanently mount. You can put the inexpensive veneer around the bottom edge, I mean, you can make it really look nice,
Yeah.
but it's porta potty.
Right, you don't have to have the infrastructure.
Right. And I'm not saying we would put a leach field up there. I don't know what the feasibility of doing something like that. If we, right now we're still using irrigation ditch water on the Veterans Memorial. There has been talk of trying to run an actual potable water line over to the Veterans Memorial to make sure that we've got a more steady source of water on that on a consistent basis than we do sometimes when the ditch is in or is out, depending on other criteria. So if we ran a water line over to the Veterans Memorial, then it might be more feasible to potentially do something. But I mean, those are all what ifs. But the room would still be there for the overflow parking, that we could have an event at the Veterans Memorial without, having anybody yes, for that overflow parking area, we do give up some area that could be potential burial grounds eventually. But we've talked about a mausoleum or a columbarium with to the north end of the Veterans Memorial there, where we could go up 3, 4, 5 high with the spots above ground that people can place their loved ones' remains.
Well, again, I mean, as far as the parking area, in the old section, they have all that parking area over by the water tanks, people that walk into the old cemetery. I don't want them parking all over there to get to the new side, because there's so many of the elderly. So you need the parking not just for the memorial, but for the new east side of the cemetery for big events.
And you still have some footage there between the top of your plots to the north end of the property there for parking as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think our property line is somewhere right in here.
Right.
So, I mean, we could either use that for additional parking, or we could have them put some proposed additional spaces, that future spaces that could be put in there at some point. I think that's what your point was, right?
Yeah, exactly. I knew we had more footage
right
to the north of us. There,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were basically lining this up with the original cemetery, the northern edge of the original cemetery.
Right.
So
well, on that, and like you said, you said you had what, 200 burials?
I think that's about right.
I mean, this will last us a good, 10, 20 years, hopefully.
Well, I'm saying I think we're right around the 200 burial mark in the last 13 years that I've been here, and that's cremains and full body. That's not full bodies. So,
Looking at the budget, I mean, it's about on average 20 a year, roughly.
So we're looking at trying to get something going here in the summer to start trying to get the landscaping and lay it out, the dirt and stuff, get it prepped to start doing some things there, or what are we? When we're moving forward with this, because this is some of that money that we got from the
perpetual care.
I'd like to do this, right?
My idea is to have another conversation with the board with Mr. Curtis and get the final design done, and then engineer basically with the final design to where we can budget it and get bids to actually do it next year, 2 years.
Right. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
So, but in a matter of a few years, we're going to have some concerns with stuff in the baseball cemetery.
Yeah, I want to say we're in the neighborhood of 150 spaces left, easily accessed spaces left on the eastern part of the cemetery right now. So, To answer your question, yes, we need to keep moving on this, cause I think somewhere in the next 5 to 7 years, we're gonna need to
Well, and
start
you want to
using
develop
this.
before we start putting, you know,
Yeah, when you start planting trees.
Yeah, we need to develop and start growing, and you don't wanna build it right before we need to use it.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, and that, so to Troy's point of finalizing the design, we wanted to show you what the preliminary thoughts were right now, get some feedback, see if you guys hated it, you loved it, you wanted something different.
I personally don't like the wall concept. I'd rather have like sloping, you know, gradual.
Okay.
You know, instead of a brick
Would you
wall.
rather just see a slope? Because honestly, I'm not sure.
Yeah, whatever I don't know what the.
Yeah,
slope
and
is,
we'll have to see, but,
Yeah.
okay. Well, and that's good feedback for us to know.
I think that would look more, artistic or more flowing
Form
than.
of the countryside.
Yeah, than walls. Retaining walls, yeah, I don't like that idea.
Okay.
It's, once you get to the memorial going east, the slope is much more drastic.
It's very heavy.
Very drastic. I mean,
Kinda have to, don't you?
it's almost like a 10-foot drop.
In front of the people on the side of a hill?
No, I mean, you have your gaps, but you can have that and then come down a little bit.
But that's not a retaining wall, it's just gonna wash out in a big storm.
You
right?
saw it.
No, it'll be
You
sloped.
saw it, what he's saying is kind of just sod it and have
Sure.
it slope down.
And then
slope
have it
down.
flat and then slope down or whatever to make it, so you have like a tiered level going to the north, the way it's sloped, but at least you have, instead of walls, you have a little slope.
You know, where it flattens out a little bit and starts
Yeah.
to go back. Okay. Sounds good, we'll talk about that, we'll bring this back probably later this fall.
I'm gonna say, I hope we have some concept plans August, September, and then we'll have something kind of finalized in order to go into budget with, so
Yeah,
that we can
because this
start
would be
putting some
secondary
numbers
to
to it.
the complex property.
Right.
Okay.
So,
And you said we're gonna use funds from the perpetual care?
To help design or build it.
Because I'm sure we don't have, I don't know what we have in there, but it ain't enough to do what we're talking about.
Now that I got the cell lease corrected, I mean, right now, the revenues are offsetting expenditures. We're back in the black, so to speak, not the red.
Cause we have 100,000 in perpetual care or something.
135,000 we dissolved, and that was earmarked for this project.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's not really structures, it's a lot of grading, elevation, putting in irrigation and trees,
Yeah.
roads.
What about opening it up for clean builder wanted, you know, kind of thing, to building it up?
Two things, Adrian, with that, not a bad idea, but we've already shot the topo as it is, so let's kind of design off of that and figure out what we need, and then depending on how much, I've already told the guys at the sewer plant that we can take a majority of what's left up here to go here with that, to dispose of that extra dirt that we've got at the sewer plant. So I know we just hauled a bunch in out there. You haven't seen the size of the hole that they started digging that I went out to look at today. And they were only about half as deep as they need to go. So, I think we're gonna have a fair amount, so we may have enough that I don't wanna open it up, and then we don't have a place to go with that excess or whatever, so.
Sure.
So in essence, we need to kind of work on this, but not finalize it until we know how much filters coming from the sewer to get up there. Basically.
Which will be later this fall.
Yep. So this will be brought back in 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
Alrighty. Just so the board knows, on the agenda is on D, getting prepared for the American Rescue Plan. I've moved that to next Tuesday because that'll be more of an actual discussion.
Yeah.
Because the confirmation today, but the town will get about $636,000 in the next 2 years.
693,000.
Sorry, you're right. 300 something in the next couple of weeks, and then 12 months from now. On the economic development discussion, all I really wanted to discuss initially with the board I contacted Cheryl Trent today, who completed these plans for us. They need to be updated. We were about to pursue them when COVID hit.
Yep.
My suggestion is Mary found a nice, reasonable camera for me, and I want to update all the pictures first and update these brochures and the plan. And I talked to Cheryl about adding Miko to the booklet, removing former Mayor Pro Tem, and then once those new drafts are done, present to the board in the next few months, probably early fall. And with our lot B on North Main, start promoting that, have that discussion how you want to do that.
Yep.
So that will be part of it. So that it doesn't sit like dust, we just keep moving forward with it. And I just wanted to give you a quick summary of some conversations I've been having in the last year. Core. Okay. So this is our core zoning map. I want to start with the south. We talk about, why can't we grow, where are we growing, so on and so forth. So first of all, Platte River Farms down here in the south. Oops. Don Sherwood Jr. contacted me because we had talked about purchasing this property. This 50 acres that's remaining, which is next to the river, west of South Main Street, and then south of 66. Don Sherwood Jr. now has a developer interested in that property to either ask the town to revest the existing plat as platted, or to replat it into a different type of subdivision format. I met with him a couple months ago. I'm waiting for him to get back with me. At this point, he has no interest in selling that property to the town because he can make a lot of money off of it. He's fully aware of the issues with the lift station. And he did his history lesson and understands that he would have to pay to upsize or build a new lift station, which also includes upsizing the line all the way down Division to Grand Avenue. So it'd be a costly project. So that's on something new, but that's off the table right now for the town to purchase. This property south, in this area right here, that's owned by Magnus Land and Cattle. And then on the other side of 85, it's multiple owners, but Mellensinger, Horn, and Wilson own this section, and then over here is the Karen Miller property. So growing south, you just identifying names off the public record. Those are the people we have to talk to. But again, all of our water and sewer on the north. We can provide water south of 66. Sewer is going to be tremendously costly and tricky because we have to upsize everything. Obviously, this is all floodplain. We can't develop. This property right here, if you can see my cursor, that's Miss Joan Camp. Dave and I meet with her tomorrow to discuss building a new south front road frontage street from 32 down to 30.
Isn't that square Todd Harris?
This is Todd Harris down here, this
sorry,
page.
yes.
And then Dave McKay bought the old 37 acres of Todd Harris property. UP from 30 up the first half mile to the camp property has a 200-foot easement. Greg Larson, UP landman, has agreed that you will see in the next month, hopefully, a draft agreement to where they will give us the outer 100 foot to build this road in the south half mile. Once we build the road, then it will become our property. But they don't give it to us until we build the road.
You don't want anything from us?
Nope.
Are you kidding me?
No, because they need to close 30. They need that crossing closure.
They need that extra track.
So we were talking to Mr. McKay, and then when Greg Larson said he talked to his people, they don't need that the eastern 100 foot, that's perfect for what we need. The problem is the north half mile along the camp property, the UP right away goes to 100 foot. Then you have these 3 or 4 properties, the Garcias and Salamanca's, right behind Bay State Milling. It's tight. You can't really build a truck road through there. So the idea is to come up and get permission from Joan Camp and Phyllis Nelson, her cousin, to go around these properties and somehow reconnect to camera 30 here, or maybe further away because of the distance to the UP. That is what we're discussing tomorrow. So I just mentioned that that's part of a big road project that opened up this land. And then the Shutt family owns all of this property right here. Mr. Shutt has a property right here. I've met him before. So he controls this section of, on the east side of the ditches. And then Mr. Gary Hendrickson, Bella Farms is registered owners of both sides of 85 from 34 to 36. Had several long conversations with Gary over the years, so is the mayor. He contracted Ag Pro about 4 years ago. I met with him and his engineer staff and did a very nice conceptual layout. Where the large lot, like 5 acre lot, rail access industrial on the east side of 85, which makes a lot of sense. Then over in this corner, north of the Energy Park, is about a 20 acre, give or take, commercial component, like a truck stop, hotel, fast food, restaurant, you name it. Followed by multifamily, high density, and then as you go north 36, be more of a large scale, large lot, single family density. It's a conceptual plan. I have not heard from him since COVID started. And as we go over, over here, Mr. Hill bought this land. Mr. Hill owns this land, and Magnus Land Canada owns this land.
Hey Troy, I just saw it on the weekend, just north of that property's for sale as well.
North of it?
Right there, yeah.
No.
Have you seen that, or?
That's been for sale for a while.
Yeah, it's
For a
been
long
for
time.
sale for a while.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 50 acres.
Yeah.
This is the 69 acres that was the og farm that was for sale, and Kurt, back in January, mid-January, bought it. He's known that Mr. Og for many, many years. He ended up buying it. The problem with this parcel is it has a very active oxy pad site right in smack in the middle of it.
And their surface rights are the entire property.
Yep. So
They don't have like an access road on one side or the other.
So it's farming, it's being farmed. I think Travis Heard farms it for him, but otherwise, not much use to it. Not that oxy. A few years ago, when Anadarko still had that, I was talking to, not Susan Alders, but a couple of the other attorneys. They were looking at relocating their pad site to the north, and the southern 40 acres, they were considering selling that to the town or to the developer for development. That's way off the table. That's no longer even developed. And this property over here is the Gunsner Investment Group, which is farmed by Stacy Odell. It's all in floodplain, can't build there. So that's kind of a snapshot of the immediate area around us of some of the landowners, and I've spoken to every single one of them in the last 5-6 years about development. Some have interest, like Mr. Gary Hendrickson. Kurt and I've had some conversations. He has no interest in developing in the town limits. Mr. Shutt I've not talked to, but I haven't taken a serious approach because he's east of the ditches. It'd be really hard to service out with water and sewer. And then Joan Camp, of course, Joan owns this prime piece of river property right here.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's in the county, isn't it?
it's in the county. Anything not colored is in the county. And then she owns from 66 all the way north, and this little farm you see across the elementary school, that's owned by Phil Smells.
And also the yellow sliver on the corner of Goodrich
And this lot right here.
River. Yep.
And what they told me, I don't know if it's true or not, but back in the day, Mel, her dad, bought that lot because if you were a property owner in Platteville, you could vote. Otherwise, they'd never lived in Platteville. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the story.
There's no
He had talked about selling that, and he was wondering if when he bought that property, he had sewer and water taps, and so long ago.
There's no sewer water taps. So
Yeah.
Joan and I have had the same conversation.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah, one time she considered putting on some senior housing, some like 4-plexes or 8-plexes on there, and she met with me and the museum ladies years ago, and that never came to fruition.
She's not inclined to sell her property or develop, right?
I've tried, and I've tried, and I've tried.
I've met with her and tried.
What about the landlocked property there, that, the guy bought that one by the ball fields? Was he gonna try to incorporate that? and
Oh, this
put
one right
houses?
here?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, what's his name? I can't remember. It's Nick Chris's old property, the 11 acres.
Yeah, Peter
Allstrand. He's still interested in developing it, but when we last spoke, he knows our water right dedication or dedication for CBT, and he said, unless you change it, I'm not gonna develop. Because right now it's 1-for-1, so we're having that conversation next month.
So that's this piece right here, the Marlene Hart.
Sorry, Marlene,
Yeah.
owns that
Owns
piece.
this, and this is,
Frank
Right.
Press.
Frank Kress.
Everybody knows who that was.
Everybody knows Frank.
So I don't make any excuses, I just wanted to give you an idea that all these property owners except Shuts and then the one south of town, I don't talk to Magnus about development, I know I'm not wasting my time. In order to grow, you need to have willing property owners around your community who wants to develop or sell to developers to grow. Otherwise, we bypass our immediate neighbors and we flagpole past them for someone who does. That's the only way to do it. Firestone's doing it all the time. If you look at their map like ours, it's spots all over that area. It's not one cluster like we have. And that's what they're doing.
But then they don't offer utility service, so to speak.
I don't know all the details, but I met with AJ Kruger on the IGA, which is supposed to be coming in the next month, getting ready for the July study session. They're developing their own water treatment facility off of County Road 13, so they're gonna start treating their own water to help supply this new development along County Road 24 from King Supers down to 19.
Sure.
All that's is applied for residential growth. And he told me that 19, they currently own and control 19 up to 26. They've already worked out agreement with Will County to take it all the way to 66. They're gonna take all of 19 from 66 south. But what he told me that they don't wanna go east of 19 or north of 66. So I'm waiting on the draft agreement. I said, you throw something in writing, AJ, give it to me and I'll give it to you.
Other than the trail that they have annexed over there.
The trail is just, it's the old UP or railroad trail that goes up to 40, I think, or 42.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it goes that's part of the Wildcat Trail conversation.
But
So,
more than likely, they're not offering sewer to people that are 10 miles away, right?
I think it's all gonna be, it's
Not yet.
St.
They may at some
St.
point.
Brand Sanitation.
They're gonna say
Yeah.
St. Brain Sanitation does everything for Frederick, Firestone, and Tacoma.
Yeah.
Sure, but
And-
they aren't connected yet. They may say you will be eventually, but it's not.
Developers will pay for all that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean,
The rate of houses are being
we
sold?
signed an agreement with, you wanna go up just a little bit?
Yeah.
In, I think it's this area of 25 and this area here, we actually have an agreement with St. Brain that,
It's everything
Yeah.
south of 66, it's all this.
okay. So, that it's first come, first served. Well, I guess the town has first right of refusal if it's annexed to town, if we can serve them. But if we can't serve them sewer, St. Brain might in that area, even if that was Platteville town limits.
Mm-hmm.
But we came to that agreement 10 or 12 years ago with them.
When we did the 2011
Yeah.
wastewater
10
utility
years
study
ago.
update. And the thing is, Platteville will not build in floodplain.
Right.
We've never built residential in floodplain.
One thing, going east, just a thought,
Mhm.
Fort Lupton is not building their own sewer plant. They are tacking on to Metro wastewater district. Metro is going to build the lines all the way, which is the one on, Will County Road 6 and Highway 85. They're out of Brighton. They're going to build the lines all the way to Fort Lupton, and Fort Lupton just has to pay for the infrastructure in town, connection and everything. They're taking it across the highway and the UP at that point, at that moment. If we want to develop east of the highway, it's worth a discussion to Metro if they want to pipe it all the way down to us. Just a thought.
So just tying in with what left on the east side at the top.
In 2011, when we did the utility plan, part of what we did was a preliminary engineering study to determine what the cost of the town becoming a customer of St. Vrain Sanitation would be. At that time frame, it was actually like $500,000 more to connect and build the lines to St. Vrain than it was for us to build our new treatment facility that at that time was a $5.5 million project, or anticipated to be. So it was right around a $6 million project, 575 to 600,000, or $6 million to build the lines to St. Vrain. And the town would have to maintain all of our existing collection. We would have to maintain all of the lift stations from here to there. And then we paid a per gallon charge. And the board at that time wanted to maintain the autonomy of being able to control our own growth and not have St. Vrain say, oops, we're out of space because Frederick grew too fast or Firestone grew too fast and we don't have enough room in our plant. So since it was a toss-up, if it had been half the cost to go down there, then I think the board might have had a different thought process.
Well, and one seat at the table with the district voting was also a turnoff, if I remember correctly.
There was no guaranteed seat,
Okay.
but that was part of the discussion was, well, does Platteville to become a customer of St. Vrain, does the mayor of Platteville automatically become part of the board of directors of St. Vrain? You know, that there's an automatic seat, so there's one voice.
Right.
But our board was like, well, there's 6 or 7 board members for St. Vrain, so how big is that one voice really gonna be if everybody else is going another direction? And that was part of the autonomy of maintaining our own ability to deal with the state and grow on our own.
Well, and we could control the prices versus
Correct.
the sanitation district controlling prices for our customers.
Correct.
Plus we wanted Dave to be able to all that crap.
We're gluttons for punishment, it sounds like to me.
But it's just another something to pursue. I don't know if Metro District, if the Metro wastewater is gonna be any different than St. Vrain. I have no idea. Maybe they wouldn't come up this way. I don't know. I just know that Fort Lupton's doing that, and it's a question worth asking.
Maybe our
Only
someday
way,
only alternative to the west, you know,
or to the east.
or the east.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna finish with this, because this is gonna be picked up again next month with Melissa Kendrick, because we'll be talking about our comp plan update. When we start that, we'd like to do that to have the water component and to expand our 3-mile boundary. Right now, this is our 3-mile boundary. Obviously, it does only goes about a half-mile east, but it goes 3 miles west, north, and south. There's some conversation about making this a true 3-mile boundary, going the whole 3 miles east, basically out to roughly 31 or 33, I think it is. It's off the map right here.
Why not just go all the way to Pelican Lake Ranch?
That's 7 miles.
Oh my God, we don't
We only
want
go
that.
3 miles in 1 year.
Well, what is the,
So,
what would be, I mean, we don't see any potential in that direction for maybe years and years to come. Is there any benefit?
I just know there was some discussion.
It takes us out to, it expands our sphere of influence, I guess, as far as things that happen out there in the future.
yeah.
True.
It doesn't hurt anything.
I mean, we've had situations where north of us, people have annexed in businesses and whatnot. They're not a burden on our sewer or water systems or anything like that, where we have that, annexation is something more for Dave to take care of.
Well, and I think out east, we don't have any threats of Firestone coming up compared to what we do on the west side.
It's pretty much all ag, farm, ranch, so we gas, all gas. There's some solar farms out there.
And they all identify.
And they do. As far as realistic growth, it's always been north and west, north and west, not so much south, but it's an option. With these property owners over the years, obviously Platte River Farms has been the most talked about, but Gary Hendrickson, he has his own concept, which I don't know, it's a pretty good conceptual idea. Joan Camp and Phil's, I've talked to them over the years about putting a road through there and having some rail access, maybe some large lot development on the other side of the ditches. Because of serviceability, they want septic, tie in the water. Same thing with Kurt Hill. He could go either way because he's so close to water and sewer. Again, I haven't talked to anybody south because that really is just Magnus. It's not gonna happen. Plus, that Magnus land south of Platteville isn't flooded. So you can see the speckled area. That's all the designated floodplain by FEMA. From West Farms over to Rogers Circle.
The only one that sounded like it had any hope was Platte River Farms.
Platte River Farms, and I think something in the next year or two will probably happen there. Whether he finds a way to develop it or he knows we're interested in buying it. So, and I told him about the water and sewer connections in town. He's familiar with that. He read his dad brought it in back in 2005. And I said, if you have another idea for the board to consider, such as septic or something along those lines, or replatting, it sounded like he had to at least, I think the current Platte River Farms subdivision has 97 or 98 homes. He has to have at least that many homes or more to make it profitable. And right now it's platted as it's not small lots. Those lots are pretty decent size. They're not acre or half acre, but they're 8 to 12,000 square foot lots. They're not too bad. What's currently platted out there?
Can we figure out some sort of grant for, like something we do to help pay for the sewer costs and get paid on the back end for property taxes? You know what I mean?
Like a self-imposed grant or something, or?
Somehow to help pay for the sewer upgrade. But ultimately, we could just get paid on the back end by fees by them using our service, right? You upgrade your infrastructure. We should be willing to at least talk with them about that. He shouldn't have to foot the bill for the whole sewer line.
I agree.
Right?
Sure. I mean, the town benefits from it.
Yeah.
On more than one front.
The conversation was.
You know.
For sure.
So when we last met, he was going to talk to this prospective developer. He didn't give any name. He said there's actually 2 of them he's talking to. And he said give it a little bit of time if you revisit with what his options or roadblocks would be. I did stress to him that the board would be very open to any kind of residential development in that area. So we had a good meeting here in this room a couple months ago.
So how do we keep that sort of ball rolling? I don't know how other towns do it. Does the town planner just like check in with them every couple months? Do that, how does this happen?
What?
You've been in a growing town before, so is Mary.
Yeah.
What do you guys, what happens? What do we need to be doing that we're not doing?
It just happens.
They come to you.
It just happens?
It does, yeah. They generally come to us.
We don't have any.
We don't have to go to them.
Sometimes an incentive package helps.
Yeah, we've done that too.
So if we don't have our border 3 miles east, like those 3 homes that are being built on the east side of the cemetery, they come to us for annexation.
They have to approach us.
But not if they're outside of that boundary, right? Well, county, that's outside of Lower County's IGA with us, correct?
Technically, we're not supposed to annex anything outside of a 3 mile area.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So,
If you expanded this year to incorporate that opens up opportunities.
right. But then what does it hurt? Does it cost us anything?
it's just a map revision, he approved, we sent to Old County.
It doesn't incur any more public works, maintenance costs or anything, right? It's just a line on a map.
You're just coloring in the gray areas east of Platteville out 3 miles, what you're doing. That's all you're doing.
Expansive sphere of influence.
Yeah, I would absolutely do that.
So when Melissa's here next month, we're gonna talk about that and then the comp plan in more detail and the process she wants to do. We're not gonna contract it out, we're gonna do administrative because we're just modifying what we currently have.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
okay. Any questions for David and I for topics tonight?
No, thank you guys. A lot of information, a lot of digging, a lot of work. Thank you guys.
I have one thing on that property B. Is that what we call that, property B up by Occidental?
Yeah, lot B.
Lot B. What do we, market that for, go towards retail or?
A roller skating rink.
I was just telling Michelle we need to open up. I bet you that would go off with something nostalgia.
Sorry.
Brad and David and I and Melissa have a tentative meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. Now he's gonna be back from vacation starting tomorrow. He has a draft plat that divides the property. So we'll have town-owned detention ponds and we'll have a commercial side. So once that's done and finalized, then we're gonna bring it back to the board and there's some different options. So you can put on the market and sell it for commercial only development, or we can, learning from the energy park, what they did is they bought the energy park and they subdivided into all these lots they thought would work. And they had to keep modifying the size of the lots based upon the demand of the buyer. So my recommendation is sell it for commercial with some incentives that we can talk about. That attracts them in here, but it has to be sold under a zoning category. You can't say you can only build a McDonald's. You can't do that.
Right.
But
So
you can say it's only allowed zoning for community commercial or commercial, and then they are allowed to build what they want under that zoning designation.
Right.
And that's how it works. So you have some control, but not total control. Or you can subdivide it and sell each lot individually. That's a gamble because you don't know what the lot's gonna fit.
Right.
So that's coming up, and it's not quite there yet.
Okay.
So.
You had mentioned one time about talking to Hayes Market about that.
I met with the 3 brothers that run his market.
Are they still interested, or does it seem like it might be something
We don't have enough rooftops yet.
Okay.
No. They told me that they need to net about 100K a week, and we just don't have the foot traffic for that.
2,500 rooftops. I think is a magical number.
They were really, I reached out to them, and we met earlier this year. They came over, we met in this room, and we had a nice hour-and-a-half conversation about dynamics of Platteville. They were curious about the rural growth within 5 miles of Platteville, so they were just discussing in their own mind verbally kind of a business plan, and they did say if the town developed and built a structure that they would seriously look at leasing it from us and putting it in the store, but they can't pay for all the infrastructure. They don't have the capital for that. And I don't think I'm in the, unless you want to, I'm not in the business of building or renting grocery stores.
We have
You
like
don't
this
wanna,
guy
you don't wanna manage properties on top of being a town manager? What the heck, Troy?
No.
Come on.
So we only need to double in size before, and then we can go to Hayes Market.
There you go.
And then we can
Get a
deal.
big chain in here.
We have Lanusica in the dollar store. I mean,
Well, I always leave work and drive to Hayes anyhow, so.
Okay. That's all I have.
thank you.
Okay, packet will go out Friday, Jeanette and I, Mary, will finish that up. Starting tomorrow to Thursday. Right now it's a few items, not too lengthy, next Tuesday.
Perfect. And everybody has the special meeting scheduled, right? And maybe text that out to everybody. Okay.
Every Tuesday.
Everybody.
I think it's just, yeah, we plan on Tuesday, as I get in a routine, I'm like, oh, we don't have this Tuesday.
Oh, it's in for after July 4th.
I can probably find my picture.